مر الزمان تألقا وأضاء للدنيا طريقا مشرقا وهدى من الرحمن يهدينا به للصالحات وللمكارم والتقى هذا كتاب الله أعذب منهل أنعم به.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to the 26th episode of the series, the 40 Hadith pertaining to the virtues and the rulings of the Qur'an. In today's reminder, we will look at the Hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, which is reported in Sahih Bukhari and Muslim, agreed upon Hadith. The Hadith mentions that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to Ubayy bin Ka'b, إن الله أمرني أن أقرأ عليك لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب. That verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded me to recite to you, Ubayy bin Ka'b, this surah, لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب, Surah البينة. Ubayy was amazed and he said, وَسَمَّانِ, Allah, He mentioned me by name? The Prophet ﷺ said, yes. فَبَكَى. And so Ubayy bin Ka'b, he began to weep upon hearing that. Reported by Bukhari and Muslim. In this hadith we can learn so many benefits, subhanallah. The first is that, subhanallah, the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to recite the Qur'an to Ubayy bin Ka'b. Now who was Ubayy bin Ka'b? Ubayy bin Ka'b was one of the greatest reciters of the Qur'an. And thousands upon people, they learnt Qur'an from Ubayy bin Ka'b after the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he was known for his recitation of the Qur'an. He was known from being really sahib al-Qur'an, a companion of the Qur'an. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored the status of Ubayy ibn Ka'b by commanding his Prophet to recite the Qur'an to him. Subhanallah. And not only that, he mentioned Ubayy ibn Ka'b by name. And this is why the scholars say that Ubayy ibn Ka'b was singled out because of the fact that he was so close to the Qur'an. So Allah honored him by making the Prophet ﷺ recite the Qur'an especially to him, to Ubayy ibn Ka'b. Why was this done though as a whole? Is there a particular benefit or lesson that we can learn from this? The scholars, they said one of the possible reasons why the Prophet ﷺ was commanded to recite the Qur'an to Ubayy was to teach the Ummah that we should recite the Qur'an to people who are proficient in its recitation. This should be a sunnah, that we recite the Qur'an to those who are good in its recitation. And even though they might be of a lesser degree than us, as long as they are, because of course the Prophet ﷺ was the best of the reciters of the Qur'an. But there might be someone who is lesser in degree than you, but if they are a proficient reciter of the Qur'an, it is good that we have our Qur'an checked by them. And this helps us to preserve the Qur'an in our hearts, but it helps to preserve the Qur'an in the community as a whole if we get other people to check the Qur'an for us. We also learn the humility of the Prophet ﷺ, subhanallah, that despite being someone who is more knowledgeable in Qur'an than Ubayy, then he recited the Qur'an to Ubayy. We also learn one of the reasons, as the scholars mentioned, why Ubayy bin Ka'b was singled out is because of his strong memory as well. So the Prophet ﷺ recited this surah, Surah al-Bayyinah, to Ubayy so that he can go and convey it to other people as well. And because he had a strong memory, he was able to convey it in a precise manner, which shows you the role essentially of the Huffaz. It shows you the role of those people who memorize the Qur'an. They are the people who convey the Qur'an to other people as well as its teachings as well. So inshallah, we should take a lesson from this, that inshallah ta'ala, that we strive to be of those who perfect the recitation of the Qur'an and that we are engaged in reciting the Qur'an to others as well. And it's a tradition amongst Qur'an teachers that they even say to people that have finished their hifz, after you finish your hifz of the Qur'an, you should still come back and recite the Qur'an to your former teachers, because this was a tradition of the reciters of the Qur'an. Even though the new hafiz might reach to a higher level in comparison to his teachers, subhanAllah, but he should still recite to them, and this was a practice of the Qur'an, of the reciters of the Qur'an. In the next hadith, inshallah ta'ala, we will look at the importance of being consistent in the recitation of the Qur'an and the danger of not being consistent in the recitation of the Qur'an. Unfortunately, many of us, we suffer from moments of a lot of energy, but then we sort of burn ourselves out when it comes to the recitation of the Qur'an. So we need to learn to be consistent, inshallah. And the next hadith will speak about that, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Wassalamu alaikum.
على مر الزمان تألقا وأضاء للدنيا طريقا مشرقا وهدى من الرحمن يهدينا به للصالحات وللمكارم والتقى نور على مر الزمان تألقا.